Being part of a community has changed everything for me. It's giving me strength, courage, hope. And there's a couple of people that have become a part of my community, and I want you to meet them today. Oh my God, I'm definitely sweating here. Oh my God, I didn't think this was going to happen.
A lot of pressure, Kevin.
No, it's just you never know. Oh, I really am so glad. So I'm going to say, we're going to be doing something completely different today, and that'll be your cue. At that point, everybody do this. So we're going to practice it once. You're all going to say, you're going to put your hand up and say hi, everybody. So I'm going to practice it once. If it works, we don't have to do it again. All right. All right. We're going to be doing something completely different today. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I have lost control, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm Haley Radke.
I'm Janet Nordine.
I'm Ann Heffron.
Kevin Barhydt here. Thanks for tuning in. Obviously, this is something I've never done before, and it's totally out of my control. We are gathered together. So we're here today to spend a little time as we actually would if we were just sitting in our living room, chatting with each other, talking about the one topic that we all have in common and know more than anything else, which is adoption. So I wanted to just open the door to you folks today. What's on your mind, guys? Anything.
Janet, I thought you were ready to go.
I was thinking, and then I was watching your faces. There's so much on my mind. I started my day with an adoptee that I consult with, and it was a great way to start, and lots of things happening in that person's life, and was so looking forward to seeing all of you this afternoon. So it's a day of adoption.
It's a day of adoption. And how was your morning? Were you out playing with the chickens today?
I actually had planned to stay in bed, but that didn't work. And so I ended up with the Invisible Threads, and she made an Instagram account for LGBTQ adoptees. And so we did that this morning. So that's there. I'm considering, nothing.
Oh, no. You can't leave that unsaid. You were considering.
No, nothing. I'm so happy to be here. and I think one thing that happened this week was I talked to a number of adoptees who all of a sudden adoptees are reaching out even more to me looking for community. And it's like this past week, it was a lot. And Adoptees On is the common, it's like Adoptees On is like the belly button of the adoptee community. That's the navel, the mothership.
I don't know if I've ever been called a belly button before.
The center of the universe of adoption.
I feel like we're all, I mean, Kevin, you've created your universe, and Janet, you've created yours, and it's all these wonderful pockets, powerful pockets of places that people can go to. But Haley, it's all really, in my life, it's all because of you, and I'm just super grateful.
Well, I always want to say that there were many people who paved the way ahead of me. Yeah. So I'm really glad that my podcast can build community in that way and connect people that have never found other adoptees, but there were many before me as well. So, and I'm so excited to hear there's something happening for LGBT.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
LGBTQ plus.
Way too many.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Because I have a lot reaching out to me, adoptees who identify that way, and the things I can send them are very dated. Yeah. And so I'm glad there's something happening there.
I am a part of the Rainbow Access Initiative, which is a small group in Albany, New York, that is focused on LGBTQIA issues. And one of the things that I am always hopeful that, and it's really regarding medical and health issues, and now we've really begun to focus on mental health issues. And I'm always hoping that, I've been on the board for a little over a year now, I'm always hoping that one of the things that I can maybe bring to the table is that perspective, and how we could open the door a little wider within our community, at least within the RAI Rainbow Access Initiative community, and within the other groups that we work with and support to look at these issues in that community, in that specific community in relation to the adoption. Because there's so many that just take it for granted, while I'm having these issues in a lot of ways, maybe these specific issues about my sexuality or just, my place in society. And they identify it as an LGBTQ maybe issue or something they want to grapple with. And then the idea of piecing together the adoptee factor is the way I would want to put it, really gives them a whole different lens to look at it through.
I know in my practice I have clients that are kids that are adopted that identify in that community, and also parents that are adopting that are identifying in that community. So I've really looked into resources and studied and learned and trying to be an ally to everyone that comes through the door that needs that kind of support. So I was so happy to see that today too, Anne, and shared it right away. So I'm really thrilled.
And so it's for it's for the LGBTQ community and those who love them. And so if you joined it and then maybe made memes of all the different resources, I just think stuff after a while, I just assume people know about everybody's stuff, and I forget, like, every day there's someone new who knows nothing. I wanted to ask you guys we're talking about family, right? And Pam Cordano is giving us, she's coming to visit me for 2 hours today, and it's like a surprise visit. And I was thinking that if I say her to you, you know that she is someone special to me, just like if any of you said each other's names to me, you would know it's special, and it goes beyond friends, right? And there's this, and I was thinking as we were all gathered, you go to Thanksgiving dinner with family, and a lot of people, they sit around the table and they see their mirrors, and they also see mirrors that they can fight against, that maybe they don't agree with the mirrors, but they're still mirrors. It's still a foundational place. And none of us have had that. And I think that I'm constant. I did my few years of having a tantrum, and so now I'm looking more towards like how I can make my life positive, and how I can enjoy. I raged for a few years, and now I want to be not rageful anymore. And partly it's this feeling of looking at all you guys and feeling completely accepted.
Yeah. And when we can look at ourselves and bring acceptance to ourselves, even with all of the stuff we have, and if we can bring love to those parts of ourselves that we try to exile, and to our adoptee self, if we can bring love and acceptance to that part of us, life just feels a little easier and less tantrumy. And I agree with that tantrum feeling for sure.
I love the word tantrum because, of course, why? Because as someone who has a whole childhood that I've had to, really dismantle and examine and put back together, and then redismantle and put back together. The idea of tantrums comes into play. I had so many what people would have called bad behaviors, tantrums, etc. And I have a right to the tantrums now. I have a right to still be rageful if I, let's use the word need to be, or if I choose to be. And one of the things that I love the most about having tantrums now and not wanting to have tantrums anymore and going where Anne's talking about is not regretting the tantrums, not regretting the rage, not regretting what I did. And of course, now I get emotional. I can feel it coming right now because that's what I needed to do to get where I needed to go. And I don't need anyone else's permission anymore. I don't need anyone else's assurance that what I'm processing is necessary, is going to be helpful. And I usually don't see it as such when I'm going through it. I will say to Anne, I know we've talked a lot about it, and that those rages sometimes didn't seem to make sense while they were happening. I wasn't even sure why I had to be in them, or same with Anne. But now I recognize that that's a real part of healing.
And a tantrum is just a symptom for our nervous system. It's a reaction to something that's happening within us. It isn't a behavior at all. It's just a symptom of something that is bigger within our nervous system, how we need to respond.
And understanding our nervous system and understanding our nervous system and understanding what's happened allows those tantrums to be something that we can actually choose, I guess, in some ways.
It's definitely in the fight or flight response.
just as I see my boys grow up and have fewer tantrums, I feel like I'm having fewer, even though I might have had one yesterday. But right over the years of speaking out and doing this work, you kind of get in this safe space and sort of protect yourself, insulate yourself. And then every once in a while, I'm feeling a little bit stronger and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'll say something. But then the tantrum might come for me then, like yesterday.
And doesn't it feel good to let it out?
It does. And I was really impressed because mine happened on Facebook, as so many do. But a few people that I didn't recognize their names, but I assume that they are part of my community in some fashion, came and showed up for me to do the arguing, which was beautiful because I was like, I'm not in the mood to educate you today. But I had people show up for me that I didn't have to like call in reinforcements. It was just really beautiful.
The support was there.
Yeah.
I have a question about the loving the parts, because yesterday I was driving to Berkeley to visit my daughter. So in Berkeley is where we did a lot of the adoptee retreats. So I was having flashbacks.
It's where I met you.
It's where I met Janet.
Yeah.
And I was remembering like what it was like to feel real despair as a person. And that I didn't see it as pieces, and I also didn't see any way out, and I was, because someone had told me something that he felt ashamed about, and I was thinking that like that's such a dear story, and it just makes me more connected to you because you told me, and the fact that you've been carrying this shame around for years about like, and it's just someone might say that's just a piece of you, but it colors your whole self. And I think your ability, it's like you're underwater. And I was really curious about how do you, when you're like, now I feel so much hope, but I didn't feel that before. Like I was just holding on, but maybe I was smiling, right? And maybe I looked fine, but inside I was just holding on. And I'm curious about, how do you think we can best help other people realize sooner that either they're not alone or somehow to negotiate this shame that's not even necessary, helpful?
Well, the shame belongs, right? Everything belongs. Every emotion we have as a human belongs. But when we have those big responses, like shame is a big response, and then we pick up the bad of shame and beat ourselves over the head with it, if we can bring love to that emotion and just let them coexist, the shame belongs just as much as acceptance belongs.
But see, where do you find that love? Like I hear from people who hate their first moms, right? They hate their family, they hate themselves. I mean, where does love come from?
That's different for everyone. For me, it just comes from like, this is pure love right here. Like what we have, what I feel for all of you is just, I just love you. And I'm not perfect at this. It's a work in progress, but when I can bring love to, it's almost like you can gather it to yourself, and bring it to that place within your heart that it needs to live, or within your body. This is the year of me working on like feeling like I deserve to have a body when, I shouldn't have ever been conceived or born in the first place. It's really been my 2020, whatever year, this 2020 goal is to like be in my body and be okay with it. And it's a work in progress. It's not easy. And to love something that shouldn't have ever been there, and I've, not taken really great care of it. So it's a process, but I really try to just gather that love in and bring it.
It's really metaphorical.
Don't you think that like the hate and anger, those are covering up the wounds, right?
Yes.
So it's more about
defense
like
mechanisms,
scraping off those things. And for me, it's always been coming to a place of compassion and empathy before I can like really love, especially people that have hurt me, like my first mother.
I recently, as many adoptees do, struggle with like the perfectionism. I mean, that's just a thing. And I had, I was complaining to somebody about something. This was a while ago, and they said, "You're just right." And that just settled in me, like, I'm just right. So I had some bracelets made on Etsy that say, I don't know if you can see this, just right.
Just right? Just those two words?
Just right. It's kind of like that.
Make a grill out of them.
Yeah.
I'll see if they make those and I'll send you one on Etsy. Okay. But I think for me, that was just something that settled me, and I taken that to heart, and let a lot of things go that I can't do just perfectly, because I'm just right. Yeah. And that was followed up. This person followed up by saying, "And I'm not leaving you." And I was like, oh, that's a relief. Yeah. So.
Well, I have another question for you then. If the moment, I've been actually talking to Pam a lot about the word receive, because it occurred to us that maybe part of both of our digestive systems is an inability to receive nutrients, receive food. And so I was thinking about how that first moment, the mother-child, like, safety contact moment, where the child learns to receive. And so, I can sit at the Thanksgiving table with my family, but there is a layer of saran wrap between me and receive, right? I can receive, but there's still that thing, that layer, like it doesn't go all the way into my body. And I was just, I have a narrative in my head that, like, I am alone. That is, and just 2 days ago, I started thinking about friends that I have. Like, I think I don't have any friends. And then all of a sudden I started listing in my head my friends, and I had to catch myself, because my brain wanted to shut down me hearing that I had friends. Because my brain has an old story, and I had to physically put myself on the floor and lie down so that my body could handle, like, the vibration of thinking you have more friends that you can count. And it was really hard, like, it was painful to have these new thoughts. And I was wondering for you guys, like, how do you receive friends and what feels like family? How do you tolerate that in your body? The good.
It's really hard. I mean, it's what great awareness you had to lay on the floor.
Well, it wasn't really a choice.
Right, but I mean, your body said, "This is what I need," and you, okay, I'm prostrate on the floor. That's what I'm gonna do, because a lot of people don't have that awareness about what they need in their body. They're all up in here all the time. And when I say a lot of people, I'm pointing at myself. So, yeah, it's great awareness.
I also think, and this has been really difficult for me, I thought as I got older, and of course, did physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, the work that we do and the changing, I thought things would get easier. And as I'm getting older, I'm finding that more and more, some of the trauma, the things that trauma really kind of changed in me, they're starting to manifest now. I have rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm very understanding of how that really, the constant stress, the constant traumatizing and re-traumatizing over the years has really wreaked havoc on my central nervous system. And then the RA is something that is almost a natural progression. The hardest thing for me is to realize that some of the things that I thought were behind me are only just beginning to show themselves. And not being, I don't want to use the word, kind of angry. I can still be angry at them, but not being so surprised anymore that some of the things, as I grow into, I'm 58 years old now. And as I start to age, my body might continue to manifest some of the things that it's been battling all my life. And not accepting that as, oh, that's okay, but not being so surprised, because all I know is that every time that I get all upset over the things that are happening in my body, it makes it worse. It's almost like piling on that shame on top of shame, on top of guilt, on top of remorse. And then I just end up regretting even being here. I regret that I've got a new friend, because now I got to show up for that new friend. I regret that I hate to say these things on video, but I regret that I'm a father because I have to be that loving father that I want to be. I hate, you get where I'm going with this. It's very difficult, but I think, Janet, you were talking about acceptance, kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. I mean, even accepting that you don't want to show up for your kids or your friends, that's a real emotion, a real feeling. I would love to just live in a cave on the beach. That'd be great by myself with a book and my dog and
That's not possible. And a book and your dog and Anne. It always has to be Anne.
And Anne. Yes, and Anne always, and Haley also.
About me.
Yeah.
Oh,
and Kevin, of course. And Pam, and let's see.
It's like a slippery slope.
You see how quickly we get there, though? What about me?
Yeah, but I don't know how you guys are, but I love my alone time.
My dream is to, my family knows this, my dream is to have an A-frame on a lake in the middle of Canada, hi Haley, that you can only get to by seaplane.
I don't know if that would be the middle of Canada.
Okay, the outskirts of Canada.
Sure, northern Saskatchewan would have just the place for you.
Yeah, and I really want to acknowledge that, during this time of COVID, there's so much alone, and people are really lonely. I was talking to Anna a couple weeks ago, maybe, about it's not just a pandemic, a global pandemic, but it's a pandemic of loneliness, and there's a difference to me about being alone and spending time with yourself and enjoying the company you keep than being lonely. Because I know I've spent a lot of time being lonely, but it's different just spending time with yourself and being alone. So really acknowledging, people are struggling during this time of isolation.
Well, and being lonely as an adoptee can go right to that moment where being alone,
Absolutely.
you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's not like a normal.
Yeah, you go down to that dorsal vagal place in your nervous system and of frozen. Yeah.
I found that one of the saddest moments for me has been when I get that sense of it's over, like, okay, I got, good. It's, I'm done. It's, it feels like relief at times because this has been, I hate to use that word, but it feels like almost like I can say, oh, finally. And I just feel like when I feel that sense of, like, I think, Anne, you used the word, when I feel that kind of loneliness, I feel like I'm going to die. There's that almost sense of like, oh, okay, because this has been a lot to carry. And that's a big battle sometimes. That's a big struggle.
There's something really remarkable about living where I live, surrounded by plants, and that, there's morning time and there's nighttime, and in between they're just sort of existing. And I think we pile so much pressure on ourselves about what we're supposed to do as people, like we deal with the regular world, plus we deal with being adopted, and it's just a lot. There's a lot to do every day to survive, to prove ourselves, to make a living. And I find that what I really, really do best with is when I get to go back to when I was a child and my basic needs, fed, sleep, held, and not have very much else expected from me. And in order to create that world for myself, I have isolated because I need some time where I don't have to worry about other people's needs. And by some time, I don't mean a week. Like 4 years, maybe. There's like some major quiet time, but where I don't feel lonely because I'm not sure I don't feel lonely, but I think partly it's that like there's so much life around me, and I have to take care of it, but it doesn't talk back to me. And also that the writing and putting it online and getting response, there is, maybe that's a dysfunctional kind of connection with people, but it's the best I can do right now with the tools that I have.
We all need call and response, and even if you're putting something online, you're calling out and people are responding. You're calling out to your chickens and they're responding, to the turkeys and they're running and responding.
What's it like to have little kids, Haley?
Um,
How do you come out of the fog with little kids?
well, I think
We're out.
I was sort of almost out of there by the
Yeah.
time I had them. Right now, it's just a very strange time because I've been with them 24/7 since March. And so when you talk about, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. When you
Yeah.
talk about loneliness, it's so
Yeah.
strange because I'm with these little people that I love, and also I'm like, go away.
Right.
And I have struggled for years with falling asleep, and sleep has just been troublesome for me. And now to have any alone time whatsoever, I've just been staying up later and later, and it's just a terrible cycle to get into, right? Because then you're tired and then you start the day and not in a good mood with the little ones who are ready to go. But actually, it's also been a very healing time for me because I spent a lot of time working on my show when they were really tiny, and I would hire babysitters, and I had preschool in place and those things to do work on my show. And so now I've had this extra intentional time of being like, okay, but I am going to play a game with them or do a puzzle with them or read to them. We've been reading the Chronicles of Narnia together,
Love it.
which has been really special. So it's been hard, and it's also been good because I feel like I have had extra opportunity to invest in them. Plus they're a little older now, so they go in our playroom because we moved recently, and so now they have their own playroom and they play Lego for hours and hours and hours. Janet, you would have a good time in my
Me too. I play Legos all the time.
And when I go down to the playroom with them, what I do instead of playing is I hang out with them, but I sort their Lego back into the colored bins. And I actually really enjoy that.
I don't know if you can see behind me, but there's this right here is all full of Legos.
Ooh, I love it.
Yep.
Love it.
I've got several generations of the experiences, and I have two older children, two children in their 40s, two children in their 20s, believe it or not, and three grandchildren. And one of my grandchildren is also in his 20s, so I'm all across the board with those relationships. I remember the idea of coming out of the fog with family, with children, I had all these different pieces that were in place. I had two daughters that were in their 30s when I was coming out of the fog, and two children that were I think my youngest was 5 and the oldest was 9, my two boys. And then I had these grandchildren. I had all these relationships that as I was starting to grapple with understanding what the trauma and the abandonment and then all the pieces throughout my searching and my life have kind of entailed and how it affected me. The hardest part for me was realizing how it had affected me and it had affected them. So looking at my parenting, it would be a best, kind of logistical way of saying it. My parenting was skewed. It was off. It still is, but it was so off kilter at different times in my life. And coming out of the fog was pretty difficult because I felt, again, that additional remorse, that additional, oh no, how many people has this damaged? How much hurt has this caused? And that's, I think, what people, I know for me, it was a mystery that I slowly uncovered. Really, this has been more of a mystery, kind of like not a treasure hunt, but a scavenger hunt for like, well, what does this do? And how does this work? And oh no, when I find some of those pieces, I guess the joy though, on the flip side of that was that it didn't mean that I had to change all at once, but even the little changes that I made would automatically start to ripple through each one of those relationships. And that was, of course, something I felt really proud of, but it gave me some sort of hope. It gave me a big relief, a real relief of breaking that cycle, so to speak. Really tough stuff, though.
Today when I was riding my bike, it was a tough ride. Maybe it's been smoky, so I haven't been riding it. My legs wouldn't really work. But so I was going up this hill, and I knew that at any moment a biker could come by, and I didn't want to look like I was not okay. So I worked really hard at like having my face look okay and breathe normally, even though I felt like barfing. And I was thinking, am I hardwired to show that I'm okay? Like, who cares how I look on my bike? Like, I'm suffering. And when you guys were talking, I was thinking, when we're talking about family and adoptees, like part of, for me, the struggle of being an adoptee and not really feeling the same family connection that other people might feel is this feeling of I'm in this alone and I gotta do this by myself. I gotta, like, the can't suck it up thing. And I was wondering, Haley and Kevin and Janet also, because you raised your boys, like, where does that, do you know that thing where you just put your head down and you do the work and you sort of ignore how you feel because you gotta do some stuff, but you're not all there?
Well, one thing that's always been really important to me is just acknowledging that there is a need for mental health care. And I have struggled with depression and all kinds of delightful things like that. And I always wanted to model for my kids that going to therapy was normal, and talking about feelings and not shoving them down, all of those things was very normal. So throughout quarantine times, I've definitely had some very challenging days where I literally was doing the head down. The only things I did for my children were get them breakfast and lunch. And when Nick got home, he took over, and I was on the couch. And the thing is, sometimes Isaiah would come up to me, my older, he's 8, and he would be like, "Oh, mommy, are you okay?" And I would have to say, "You know what? I'm just feeling sad. I'm tired. So I'm just going to kind of nap on the couch." And just kind of, that's normal. People have really bad days, and they were still safe, and I was still there, and I still got them their snacky lunch. And but it also models for them, like, it's okay to be sad and have a tough day. And I think normalizing that is so important, because they're gonna have really rough years probably when they're teenagers. I'm just picturing oh my gosh, growing up, and I need them to be like, let me know when they're not doing okay.
Yeah, when parents can normalize their emotions, all of them, just like what you said when you told your son that you were feeling sad, he recognizes, oh, mom isn't, today's just a little sad day, but you're still safe and you're still okay. You're still right there with them. You're still connected, even though you're having an off day. I think it's super important to model all those emotions for children. Yeah, when I have kids in my office and they tell me something sad, I always say, "Oh, I'm so sad with you," because it's a together thing. Like, we have those emotions together.
Janet, I'm curious, because your boys are adults. What are some things that you've done that you can look back on now that you're just really pleased with your parenting on, especially adoptee related? Because like Kevin, you mentioned before, like sometimes we're a little scared of passing down some things.
Yeah. I had some times when I wasn't a good mom, and what I would do sometimes, I would just get, just like with you, because they were rambunctious and they were all over the place, and sometimes I'm like, let's have a Nintendo day. Not my finest moments, but I needed that recharge time as well. But what I really always tried to do is when I messed up, was would apologize with a specific, mom didn't do very good at this today, and so I'm really sorry that it happened that way, but I'm going to try harder and better tomorrow, or the next moment, whatever. But I think it's important for children to know that we're not perfect and we mess up. And we can grow and do better, and it models that self-compassion, that by being able to say, gosh, I didn't do very well, but I know I can do better. let's try again together. I still, I apologize all the time for the things that I mess up on, but I think that's just modeling what you want to see. Both of my children are exceptional humans and with big hearts, and I appreciate them for who they are and who they're becoming. And during this time when we've been separated, I've missed them because I haven't seen them as often as I normally would. So and they're in their own transitions of life too. So yeah, it's hard when your kids don't need you as much, but you think you can fix and do everything for them, but guess what, you can't.
No, like you said, they're exceptional humans.
They are exceptional humans for sure.
They are exceptional humans, and we are exceptional humans, and as such, we have a lot of strengths. I know that when it comes to the things that we struggle with, particularly as adoptees, and like Haley was really being honest there about depression, and you guys know I've in recovery from addiction and other abuse, and like you said, all other fun things. We've all got a whole load of things sometimes that we bring to the table, and yet as time goes on, there's a lot of joy in our lives. And even though we struggle with certain things, one of the things, and I'd love to just think about it out loud for a minute as a group, a lot of these feelings are just human feelings. I just didn't have the tools to recognize them because of the way I was rewired. And then even when I somehow get my wiring a little on target, it's like Ann says, I can very easily go back to the old tapes, go back to the rewired version of me. But it seems like 98% of what we go through is just what 98% of everybody else is going through.
Yeah.
Differentiating that on a daily basis for me is a real struggle sometimes.
I see a therapist every week. I have not been in therapy for, I've just been in therapy, so it works for me and I need it. But she says to me all the time, being human is messy. And it's not just exclusive to adoptees. She's also an adoptee, which really helps the process for me. But yeah, I apply that little phrase to so many things. Being human is messy. And sometimes it's like paint with your fingers messy, and other times it's like, boy, somebody really needs to pick up the dog poop in this house messy.
When my daughter was a little girl, we were at the mall, which is not my favorite place, and we were going up the escalator, and I started crying, and I said to her, I don't know why I'm crying, and she said, maybe you're sad. And I think it's been a lifetime of me trying to hold back, like trying to show her other feelings than the ones that I really have, because there's the like, I'm adopted, but I'm fine. I'm sad, but I'm fine. But the but fine part didn't really exist. So it was really hard to say, like, I'm still learning how to say I'm sad without saying, but I'm fine, to sort of make you not worry, and how to live myself with the state of sadness. And last night I went to my daughter's house and had dinner with her, and I was super excited to see her. And so I got dysregulated, like excited and dysregulated, where I feel drunk and like I had a bunch of sugar and I couldn't stop talking. And I was so afraid of I felt messy. I felt like you're out of control. You have no idea. But if I don't judge myself, I'm funny, right? It's like,
you're delightful.
Well, but I ruined it, but it's scary to be that person. It's scary because it feels super out of control. And I ruin it for her by apologizing. So like she can't, like if I just am that person, and that doesn't mean I have no self-awareness and no ability to sort of calm myself. It wasn't crazy, but for me it felt like, oh, this is a lot. I'm a lot right now.
You're just right.
Yeah, I'm just right. And I think the drive home, I noticed the change, because normally what I would do is tear myself down in the drive home. And I've just decided I have this goal for the future, and either I want to die happy or I'm going to die sad. And so I want to die happy. And by happy, I mean like feeling I lived a good life. And so me tearing myself apart for like acting a certain way when I was trying the best that I could does not steer me towards the happy goal. So it makes it really easy. I just don't let my brain do it. Right? It's like, okay, you can't tear yourself down. That's the crazy.
You guys know that I do 12-step work and I do 12-step groups. And I was in a meeting last week, I think it was, and the topic was that somebody had died. A neighbor had died of addiction. And the person in the room was talking about how awful that is. And I remember all of us shared, and I shared some people I've known that have died. And one person said something that stuck with me, and it was like Ann just said. They said, we're all going to die. We're all going to die. Do you want to die drunk or do you want to die sober? And I love what Ann just said. Do I want to die happy or do I want to die miserable? I can't control when I'm going to die. And so it's almost like I want to do everything I can at any given moment to be in the best place I can be, so that if and when that moment comes, I'm maybe not at the top of my game, because perfect happiness is elusive, isn't it? But at least I'm doing the best I can to be not the most miserable person on earth. And the same thing for my 12-step work is obvious, right? The 12-step stuff I do, recovery stuff is all about, I'm not going to have a drink today, right? That's a good way for me to kind of guarantee that if a bus hits me today, I'm going to go sober, right? Don't have a drink today. So there's a few things that I know that I can do. I want to recognize that I am happy. I'm not suffering the way I have in the past. There's a lot of joy in my life, and I may be a little off kilter sometimes, but I was driving down the road with my son Tyler when he was about 12, maybe 11, and I was taking him to baseball practice, and he was just thinking out loud, and he says, "Papa," and I said, "What?" And he said, you drank a lot in the old days, right? Because he never saw me drunk. And I said, yeah. And he said, and drugs too. And I said, yeah. And he said, but you're okay now, right? And I said, well, yeah, I'm okay now. And he said, it was quiet. And then I thought about it and I said, but I did a lot of damage back then, and that can catch up with me later. And he kind of quietly thought of that. And we're just driving along and he said, Papa? I said, yeah. He said, it's later.
Kids are so wise.
I just went, you little shit. You nailed it. And to this day, it's a thing in our family. They'll just look at me. Anyone in my family can look at me. It's code. Now I've given you all my code. Kevin, it's later. Whenever I start feeling like things aren't right, whenever I feel a little out of sorts, like, oh my gosh, why am I not further along? Why am I not doing better? Why do I still feel, oh my God, this might catch up to me and I'm going to be miserable again the rest of my life and it's going to be awful. Just look me in the eye and just say, Kevin, it's later.
But also the word happy, I think, is misleading. I should have said to be fully myself, because all those things that you just listed that's Kevin being fully himself. And so just because I don't look happy doesn't mean I'm not living the life that sometimes you have to be really unhappy to be fully yourself, right? Like there's things that are coming through you. So I didn't mean to suggest that I'm just paving over some things because I'm choosing to be happy. I'm choosing to fully experience what it's like to have this
joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't experience that deep sadness, we wouldn't know what joy felt like when it came.
It's not reasonable to ask Haley to be locked up with her kids and to ask her to be happy. I don't think that's reasonable. Not all the time.
She can have spurts of happiness.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely joy in being with your children.
Right, but it becomes an onerous task if you think, well, I have to do this and be happy to do it all the time.
Yeah. It's not real life.
Well, it's an interesting thing. We can be more than one thing at one time. And Haley was talking about, there's a moment that I was really listening when she said, I get through the day and then my husband comes home and I just give it over to him. And there's that sense of, oh my gosh, I barely made it. And then there's that sense of kind of like, oh, almost like, it's not a great feeling, right? It's not a great feeling. But then there's that gratitude that sneaks in. I can trust that everything's going to be okay. I don't have to do everything. And so I can have sadness, pain, anger, frustration, and I can still be grateful. Right? I can still have gratitude. And I think gratitude has been a real key for me to remember what gratitude means for me at any given time. I can have everything else going wrong and I can still be a grateful person.
I think the word "and" is so important. We can feel sadness and we can feel happiness. And at the end of the day, when Haley's husband comes home and she hands it over to him, she can also do a self high five. I made it through the day. Wow, it's that feeling too, even though it might have been a really hard day. Like, congratulations, we made it to 6 o'clock when Dad came in the door, or whatever time.
I'm an adoptee and I'm completely lovable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always and.
Beautiful.
Or fuck.
I knew we were getting there. I knew we were getting there. I
made it an hour.
I wanted to share what the acronym for FINE, when you were saying FINE earlier, you know what that is, right? It's freaking incapable of normal emotions, or whatever you'd like to use, but it works. That one works for me.
Yeah, F-I-N-E, fine. It's an Aerosmith song. We got it. Guys, we're going to wrap up. I think someone just said we've been doing this for an hour, and so I know everybody probably needs to get up and stretch. We're going to go around the room real quick because we're going to go around the screen. I just would love just a couple of parting words about what you're up to or what you want. Let people know that you're up to at this point. And I have one thing that I want to share with you. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. You may or may not know. So Haley, we're going to start with you, and then Janet, and then Ann, and then I'll finish up. But Haley, parting words or things you'd like to let people know that's going on?
I just want adoptees to know that they're not alone, and I hope you can find your community like these fine people. And you can find all episodes of my show Adoptees On over wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search Adoptees On.
Thank you. Janet.
I am seeing kids, still working in the adoptee community. I'm doing consultation now with adoptees that are in other locations besides my own. And I also just want to share that on my desk, I'm always promoting Adoptees On. So people pick up the card all the time. But just working and trying to make a difference with kids and families.
Thank you. Ann.
I'm working on making some online classes for helping adoptees write their story. And Pam Cordano's coming over now so that we can brainstorm how to do adoptee retreats, possibly not in person, since COVID seems to be going on for a while.
Yay.
That's the best news I've heard today.
I'm excited.
You must attend, Haley. You must attend.
Okay, folks. I had to put my glasses on because I can't see much without them, and I'm almost gonna balk at doing this, but you're the first people to see it, and I could always just not do this because I can edit the daylights out of this. So I'm gonna share my screen, and this is what I'm gonna share with you.
Oh,
Your book.
Oh,
so exciting.
Sorry, guys. I did this wrong. Zoomed in.
Wow. Oh, look at how beautiful that is.
I'm trying to get it on the screen the right way. How do I do? Oh, there it is. Here it goes. There it is, guys.
Oh, Kevin.
Congratulations.
That's
awesome.
Congratulations, Kevin. That's really
Kevin.
beautiful.
This is incredible. We are looking at a November 10th launch, and that'll be just a soft launch, and a December 1st is when it will become fully available. And in particular, I want to thank everybody for being here. But I will say, Ann, you were the first person to know about this. You were the first person to know about dear Stephen Michael's mother. She was the only person I think that's on this call to have read it. I couldn't have done anything that I've done over these past couple of years without you guys, and I'm so grateful that you spent the time here today. And to everyone that is watching this, thank you so much for taking the time. Everything about everybody on this call will be down below in the description, and we will be putting this out there, of course, on Twitter and social networking to make sure that we reach as many people as we can, because we're here for you, and we're so grateful that you're here for us. Thanks so much for taking the time. And everybody, remember, see you next week. I'm really happy that all of you took the time to be with us today. Please make sure, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Please like this video and share it with others. Leave some comments for me and everyone down below. Make sure to tune in next week. See ya. Take care.